first thing I want to tell you, I'm not a fortune teller, okay? If I was, I wouldn't be here anymore. I'd be up at our home on Estes Park, going hiking and stuff, okay? So I'm not a fortune teller. But what I really am, I can be your historical guide of what's going on in our market, from now, but even going back 50 years. I'm your historical guide, and that's what I'm here to do here today. So like say, I'm going to go through, there's about 20 slides I'm going to go through today with you. Then we're going to do just an open Q&A, because I have, especially one question I want to ask you, and I'm sure you're going to have questions of me. And so it will be an open forum then of questions and answers, because I want to hear what's going on, okay? So I'm going to go through about 7 or 8 slides here of stats, okay? Like this first one, this is new listings. And what I want to do is totally ignore 2020 and 2021, okay? Because those are, our COVID years, abnormal years. I've told, I'm on Smidra's stats committee, I've been telling them, for 18 months at least, in long term, we're going to ignore the data from 2020 and 2021 because it's just so abnormal and stuff. So what I want you to do, what I'm going to do is focus on comparing May 2022 to May 2019 and 2018. And so you can see this is new listings, okay? New listings are down 16.5% from 19 and down, 6% from 18, okay? So as of May, we were still running low on new listings, and that's been a thing for 2 years, running low on new listings. And so next one is pendings. And here you can see, the last 2 years pendings were higher because of COVID. But still, last month, 5,800 people went under contract, on a home. And that was up 3% from 19 and 7% from 18. And the last time I checked, 18 and 19 were really damn good years to sell real estate, weren't they? Everything has gotten so distorted by 2020, and especially 2021. So we're all used to thinking, oh my God, I wish for the olden days, or whatever. These are the old days, and they were really good. 2018 and 2019 were great years to be buying and selling real estate in Metro Denver. Next one, this one is closings, okay? So, last month we had almost 5,400 closings here in Metro Denver, a very solid number. It was actually a little better than 2021, which surprised me. A lot better than 2020 because remember we were in the throes of COVID, really in the throes of COVID. But look here, okay, closings were down about 5% from 19 and 2% roughly from 2018. When you're within, 5%, it's sometimes just almost a rounding error when you start talking stats, okay? So really close. So I'm going, okay, we're doing well. Here's median days in market. I always remember Pete Doty and I used to argue and stuff in the stats committee. What number is better, median or average? I personally have always preferred median because averages can get distorted by high numbers and low numbers, especially like when it comes to home prices. But I know Pete was like the average, especially when he started talking days in market. So here's median days in market. For much of the last since about June 2020, been going 4 or 5 days, median days in market. Listed Friday, under contract by Monday. The weekend listings that you've had. But you go back to 19, okay, it was 7 days. Oh my God. 18 was 5 days. Median days in market. Next one is average days of market. Now this one shows a much bigger difference, okay, which is great to, for us to see and to know. And so we have average days in market. Last month was 9, okay. In April of 19, it was 8, or April of 2022, it was 8 days, the lowest on record. Okay, so it went back up to 9 days, the average days in market last month. In 2021, it was 11, but if you go back to 19, it was 23 days was the average days in market. And then in 2018, the average days in market was 18. So the last time I checked, 9 is smaller than 23 and smaller than 18, is that right? So that means homes, at least in May, were selling faster than they did in 2018 and 2019 still, which were, honestly, great years to sell real estate. Here's average close price over list price ratio. I've loved this one. This one has just been amazing to watch, of where homes selling, for over list price. In the past, they always sold for a discount, 98, 99%, and that ended. I mean, the last 2 years been running right about 105, about 5% over list price on average. 2020, we were down just a little over 98. We look 99, okay, just under 100%. Now, May of 2018, we're about 101%. So homes were selling last month for more over list price than they did in 18 and 19. That just tells you the strength of the market, where there's still just been so many buyers and not enough listings. And I think we've been over 100 now since June of 2020. We've hit as high as about 106.7. And that is amazing to think about homes selling for 5, 6, 7% over list price.
Is that the month of May?
Yeah, month of May. Yep, yeah. All this is May data compared to previous Mays for the last 4 years. Okay, this one is active listings at end of the month. I think we had, 4,200 here this last May? And I celebrated. Wow, we're over 4,000. It's been a while. Okay? 2021 was just it was under 3. It was like, I think, 2,800. Then you go back to 19. Look at that. Almost like 7,600 homes for sale. Oh my God, imagine that. It'd be easier to buy a home. And 18 was about 5,400. So active listings are down about 22.5% from 18 and down almost 45% from 2019. And that's why it's been so hard, for our buyers to get under contract. There isn't enough homes for sale, which is why homes have been selling for over list price. Okay? So, 2022 is better than 19 and 18 for us, okay? This one, months of inventory. We've been at 1 month or under since June 2020. It was interesting, when I saw this May 2020, we were almost 2 months. That was the highest we had seen since early 2013. But that was because, it was interesting. We had quite a few listings and stuff, which I thought was strange in May 2020, because I thought everyone was saying no one wants a stranger in their home back then. But we actually had quite a lot of homes for sale. And so there was just more, the buyers didn't want to go out and look at homes. But if you look at 19 and 18 though, you'll see our months of inventory are down 24% from 18 and down 43% from 2019, because we were 0.78 months last month. I think we might hit 1 or even break 1 here in June, is sort of what I'm expecting. I may be wrong, but we will see. But it's just been interesting to see months of inventory this low. And we've been under 2 months since early 2013. And I remember when it first happened, I was teaching the real estate trends class together with Charles Roberts in probably February of 2014. And we were both talking, it's like months of inventory had dropped below 2 months, and we were both, this can't last. At some point, people are going to start selling their homes, because you remember we had this great housing crash, and everyone's home value dropped substantially in a lot of areas. And we thought, okay, people have equity now. It's now easy to sell a home. You don't have to do a short sale. And so we both thought, wow, inventory ought to increase. Well, we were wrong. It never happened. It's just sort of been a self-fulfilling prophecy for the last 9 years of inventory staying really low. This is a chart here from First Alliance Title, and I always love seeing this one. And this is showing trends, and this is EASU showing time, and it's from all 11 counties, okay? And so it was interesting, okay, everyone panicked, okay? We had an average of 9 showings per home last month, which was down from almost 18 last year, okay? Oh my God, showings were down 50%. But from what number? From a very high number last year. And the long-term average is 7.2. So still in May, we were seeing more showings on homes than what we did in our long-term average. So showings were still, pretty dang strong. Yeah, they were down in beginning of this year. In the first quarter, we were going 23, 24 showings per home and stuff. So it was a much higher number then, but it's been that way. Everyone thinks, summertime's this time to buy and sell, and maybe in other cities, but it's not in Denver. The best time to list is typically March. And so many buyers start coming out in January. I mean, it's interesting of where it's January 3rd and my phone's starting to ring off the hook, of new buyers. It's like everyone's made a New Year's resolution. Well, I'm going to buy a home this year. And so we just see buying activity just surge in January. And about the fourth quarter of last year was the strongest sales in fourth quarter history in Metro Denver. So it was like the fourth quarter was like the first quarter of most years. So we've had this huge demand for a long period of time. There really was no slowdown or letdown last year. There was a small one in July, but that was about it. So it's interesting to see how many showings. I bet that number may drop to 5 or something this month. We'll just see. Next one. So let's do a summary of 2022 versus 18 and 19, okay? New listings. We have fewer new listings today. We have higher showings than 18 and 19. We have more pendings or more under contract, so that tells us buyer demand is stronger than it was 18 and 19. Closings were down a little bit, okay? Part of that could just be not enough inventory, not the right inventory of homes that people want to buy. Average days in market was down sharply from 18 and 19. The average closed price to original list price was up substantially, from like 99% in 19 to over 105. Next, active listings were down big. Months of inventory plummeted, because like I said, we've been under a month since June 2020. We've gone as low as about 0.35 months, which is basically 9-10 days of inventory. Yeah. Which is just remarkable to think about. And they just go, okay, our market is stronger as of May of this year. It's been stronger than it was 18 and 19, which is why we saw median sold prices year over year last month of all property types up 14.8%. It dropped. I was excited to see it drop below 15% because it's been running 18 to 25, most of the last 2 years, which is totally unsustainable. And so it was been amazing to see that, and I'm hoping by September at least that the price appreciation on median home prices will be down to 7-8%. That's my hope will happen. I mean, our long-term average is 6.5% over 50 years. So if we can get back down to just our average this year, I'd be very happy. So here's the thing we're hearing the media really harp on is prices dropping. But I go, what prices are dropping? Is it list price or is it the sold prices? And this is where we have to be careful, where the media is talking about prices dropping, but really what's dropping is list prices. So let's just talk about it, because home value is not based on what someone lists the home for. Because your seller can list the home for whatever the heck they want. What value is what a willing buyer and a willing seller are willing to agree to. That's the value of a home. And so we got to be aware of what the media is telling us and telling our clients. And for whatever reason, a lot of our clients believe the media. I don't know why. Okay, like, oh God, I forgot her name, Miss Olnick from CNBC. She's been talking about real estate forever, and she's been telling consumers since 2015 that there's a housing bubble and that people shouldn't buy real estate. Every dang year for 7 years. And I'm going, how does she still have a job? Of where it's like weathermen. They can't forecast the weather very well. She's not very good at forecasting the real estate market either. So, and every summer, our stats committee, we talk about, price drops. Usually we start talking about it July and August because everyone goes, oh my God, the sky is falling. Okay, of where, yeah, sometimes sellers list their price too high, much to, your chagrin often, okay? And they have to drop the price. And I'll tell a little story about that here soon. And usually we see the cool down. It usually can start normally between Memorial Day and 4th of July. Okay, this year it seemed to start about Mother's Day weekend. So it started a little earlier, but I think a lot of that was just because we had such a strong fourth quarter last year. And buyers are just fatigued if they haven't gotten under contract and closed. It's just been an exhausting thing for them to be able to buy a home. Yeah.
Next question.
Sure.
That comment. How about the interest rate?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I do think the rate increases we've seen this year are starting to really curtail some buyers. I still have new buyers coming in, and I tell them what rates are, and they're like, okay, but we still need a bigger home, or we want a new home. I talked with a young couple yesterday. I helped them buy their home about 3.5 years ago, a townhouse up in Thornton, and she's gotten married, and she works from home all the time. They just need a bigger place. And so, they're planning on moving into a single family home up north. Yeah, I don't like the interest rates, but like I told her, and I will tell you this later, okay, whenever there's a recession, mortgage rates always drop. You'll see a slide coming up. So buy now at today's prices and refinance whenever the next recession is, okay? Let's see here, forgot. Oh, okay. Here's one of the things I think has often happened for us, when it comes to real estate with consumers is, let's just say, for example, the Joneses listed their home for sale in March for $599, and it sold for $700,000 because the market was just flipping crazy then. Now the Smiths, their neighbors or friends, want to list their home for sale. They think their home is worth more than the Joneses' home. So they want to list it $725. It's not worth $725 right now. And so then we see the price drops. And it's because the sellers listed too high. And so we see that happen. And I'm sure how many of you have had that conversation with clients every summer? Okay? It's common. Of where consumers think they don't understand how quickly the market changes, and that the summertime in Denver is slower. It just is, because everyone's on vacation in the mountains on the weekends. Much better place to be than down here in Metro Denver. So instead of looking at homes, they're looking at wildflowers and looking at the elk, okay? So I think that's a lot of why we see prices dropping. It's the list prices. So there's 7 key stats I'm starting to follow, okay, for us. One is the number of showings. It needs to be less than 10 for sure. It was 9 last month. Next, we need to see this time of year.
Tell me a little bit about what you mean by that. Showings need to be less than
I think to see a market slowdown. To see a market slowdown, okay?
under contract?
Yeah, yeah. Number of showings before it goes under contract. New listings, I think we need to see over 7,000 here in the summertime. I think we're going to hit that in June. Pending, I think, needs to be under 5,000. Last month was 5,800. So I don't think we'll go under 5,000 this month. We need to see closings under 5,000 to really start seeing a market slow down. We need to see median days in market over 10. And it hasn't been there in a couple years. We need to see average days in market really over 30. Okay? And so to really see a market slow down, we need to see months of inventory over 1, and I really want to get it to 2 and stuff, and even over 2 would be really nice, because then appreciation will slow down, and then our buyers have more opportunities to buy. I don't have to bid over list price, and if you're listing a home, your phone's not ringing off the hook all weekend with 27 buyers wanting and 27 agents calling you, about looking at your home. And in May, the only number that hit that criteria was showings, okay? Now, what's interesting, you'll see, if you subscribe to my newsletter, at the bottom of it every week, I show a chart or a graph from Invest Success. They're a company that does real estate training and mentoring for people who want to invest in real estate, especially fix and flip. That's their key thing. So it was, provide this graph for me. And it shows the number of new listings, pendings, and closings every week using the 11 county DMAR data. So over the last 4 weeks, and their data, they pulled on the Thursday of every week, because their newsletter comes out Friday morning. So as of last Thursday, June 23rd, over the last 4 weeks, we'd seen a little over 9,000 new listings in the 11 county area, about almost 7,000 homes go under contract, and then about 7,000 closings. Those are phenomenal numbers. And I go, okay, if nearly 7,000 homes have gone under contract in the last 4 weeks and your listing hasn't, okay, maybe the price is too high. Maybe you gotta, I remember I was interviewing several realtors, earlier this month, and you saw that in my newsletter a couple of weeks ago. And I remember one realtor, he said, yeah, realtors are gonna need more than a 4-day marketing plan. Because all you basically had to do was put a sign in the yard and put it in the MLS and get your Excel spreadsheet ready for all the offers. That's all you had to do in most cases. Shoot, even in the $1 to $2 million market, median days in market has been 7-8 days in that price range. And so it's just been remarkable. And so, a lot of you have been in this business a long time. You just got to put back on your old shoes and go, okay, the market is changing. I've got to do a little more work to sell this home, whether it be open houses, maybe using a lot more social media, maybe doing, dropping off flyers or door hangers in the neighborhood. Tell them about the new listing. And so you're going to have to do a little more work, to sell a home today. Here's, wanted to know, someone asked me, how will rising rates impact home prices? So I was curious. I didn't know the answer when I put this class together. And so this is a chart from, it's called FRED, which is St. Louis Federal Reserve. And they put out tons of great data and charts all the time. And so every gray area is a recession, going back to 1975. 1975, home prices rose. Okay. Oh, wait, let's see. Yeah. Yeah, this is just showing, oh, yeah, that's right. Sorry, this chart shows the interest rates and stuff. But so what I did, I had to create a new screen here. From January 1980 to September 81, rates rose from almost 13% to 18%. Okay, some of you remember those days. What was interesting? Home prices rose 12% during that time. I went back and found all the data. From April 83 to July of 84, rates rose from 12.73% to almost 14.7%. Prices rose 5.6%. Third time when rates rose by 1% or more, February of 87 to August of 87, a short period of time, rates rose a little over 1% and prices were flat during that time period, okay? Number 4, August 93 to December 94, during that 16-month pay period or period of time, mortgage rates went up a little over 2% and prices still rose 8.5%. Okay, number 5, September 98 to May 2020. And I remember this time. Rates rose from 6.5% to 8.5% approximately, 2%. Prices rose 28%. I remember those days. I got into the business in 98. We had bidding wars, especially in 99 and 2000. My wife and I bought our first home in 2000. I think it was the 4th contract that it took, to win the bidding war. Because we had bidding wars back then too. Because months of inventory was about 2.3 months those 2 years. So it was amazing to see, okay, interest rates went up 2%. Home prices went up 28. Didn't seem to impact it. Number 6, from May of 13 to September 13, rates rose from 3.35% to a little over 4.5%. And prices rose 8.9% that year. Number 7, most recent one, August 17 to November 18, rates rose a little over 1%. Prices still rose 6.5%. Do you see a trend? What is history telling us? 6 out of 7 times, home prices still rose, even though mortgage rates were rising. Now, other than, back in the 80s when they went up like over 4%, we haven't seen a nearly 3% increase before. But I just go and I look at history. Okay, in the past when we've seen mortgage rates increase anytime by over 1% in a shorter period of time, home prices still rose. This is what consumers need to know.
I think the only difference to this that I would throw in is, back in those days, homes cost $100,000, $200,000, $300,000. Right now, your mortgage is pretty dang high for
Yeah.
a first-time
Oh, yeah, I
home
mean,
buyer. And
yeah.
we're one of the most expensive cities in the country right now.
Yep.
Top 5.
Yeah.
So I think it's maybe a difference.
Yeah, and we'll just see. I mean, I'm just going off of history.
Yeah.
So here's another great graph. This one shows mortgage rates and recessions. Once again, the darker blue area is recessions. And what happens to mortgage rates? Here in 1980, mortgage rates dropped from 16% to under 12%. Here in 82, they dropped from 18 to 13%. In 91, they dropped from 11 to 8.75. 02, they dropped just a little over 0.5% during this time. In 2009, rates dropped from 6 to 4.875, and then in 2020 they dropped from 3.75 to 2.75 when we had that short recession caused by COVID. So, what happens when we have recessions? What happens to mortgage rates? They drop. Have every time. Now the question is, when is our next recession going to be? There's a ton of talk. Some people believe we're in, maybe in it already. Other people think it's, a year or 2 years away, something like that. But whenever we come into the next recession, because there's going to be one coming, mortgage rates are going to drop. And that will give an opportunity for homeowners, people who buy today, to lower their rate and lower their payment at that point in time. Yeah.
Back to your last graph with mortgage rates rising, or home prices rising, in rising mortgage rates. What do you attribute that to?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
How home prices appreciated when mortgage rates rose.
Right.
What do you
It's just,
people just say,
yeah. I mean, when people need a new home, they need a new home. Because people are always getting married, they're always getting divorced, they're always having kids, they're always having kids move out. There's always been job relocations. There's been a lot fewer job relocations now per se, but a lot of people have relocated here to Denver or Colorado, because they can work from anywhere now. And so mortgage rates don't really impact the buying decisions normally of most buyers.
So maybe it's demographics.
Yeah. I mean, like I've said in my When Will Denver Home Prices Drop class, and I've wrote about in my newsletter, we're now entering, for the next 18 years, the greatest level of continued housing demand our country has ever seen. On average, a little over 4 million adults will turn 33, the average age of a first-time home buyer, for the next 18 years. And there's already about 4 million of them, just shy of it, are age 21. They're now looking maybe to rent their own places. And so there's huge housing demand already coming. And it's organic and natural. And nationally, we believe we're behind, home builders are behind and developers are behind by 4 to 6 million units of housing. And I don't think that deficit is ever going to go away. I don't think we'll ever get back to zero. Because the biggest thing, there isn't enough labor to build the homes. And I don't see that changing dramatically. So when you have a small supply already, and more and more organic demand coming, what do you think home prices are going to do? They're going to rise. Yeah, and yeah, the mortgage rates sort of suck right now. I get it, but I also go, okay, when my wife and I bought our first home in 2000, our rate was 8.5. Many of you have had rates in the double digits or as high as 18. People still bought homes. Now, of course, the home prices were much lower and stuff, but when people need housing, they need housing. And they'll pay whatever it takes. And, you know, there's a lot of people with six-figure incomes. I've helped so many millennial couples who have incomes of 200, 300, sometimes much more than that, and they can afford it. You know, if they want to buy a home, okay, that's what they got to do. We're tired of renting, so we're going to buy.
Have you looked at the stats for just accounting for inflation? Because I know I love talking to my dad and his friends and stuff, because they talk about even in the 80s or opportunities that they passed up that they were like,
oh yeah,
why didn't I buy it? But back then they were like,
yeah,
who the hell would buy that? That's so expensive.
Yeah, oh
it's
yeah.
like that. I feel like that's, you talk to anybody in the history of real estate, it's always too expensive until 10 years later.
Right,
like,
yeah, because
that wasn't too expensive.
Yeah, I think it was 86 or 87 average home prices hit 100K. And I bet there were realtors back then that said, oh my God, the sky is falling. Who the hell is going to buy a home for $100,000 in Metro Denver? And, you know, how many of you, you know, you've owned homes and you've sold them. How many of you wish you still owned previous homes? Probably every single one of you. And so...
Let's not talk about that.
Sorry.
But also just I know my friends as a general friend group, I mean, most households are six-figure income earners between two people, which is substantially different than the 80s when it was 30, 40,000.
Yeah, or even less than that.
Or even less than that.
Yeah, you know, so the numbers are all relative. Here's another chart showing housing stays strong through recessions. This is using the Case-Shiller National House Price Index. Once again, the dark blue areas are recessions. Okay, in 1960, it's like prices dropped a little bit over 60 years ago during that recession. In 1970, prices rose. 75, prices rose. 80, prices rose. 81, prices rose. 90, prices rose and sort of settled down. 01, prices rose. Prices rose before the big recession, and of course dropped because housing started the recession. And then the last little official recession we had, prices have soared. So what does that tell you? Home prices often still rise during recessions. Everyone thinks that's not true, but it is. Like here's a chart that comes from First Alliance Title on Your Castle Real Estate, according to CoreLogic. Okay, this is national. They just did the last 5 recessions. Didn't include 2020 because it's such a unique one. But the short bar is the national home prices, what they've done during recessions. The purple bar is Denver. 1980, home prices here went up 13.5%. 81 prices rose nearly 5%. 1990 prices rose nearly 6%. 2001 prices rose by over 4.5%. The only time they've dropped during a recession was going back to 2007, 8, 9 during that Great Recession period, and it was because housing caused that recession. And a great point is even if a house is ever upside down today, and there's so few of them, nationally 95, 96% of all mortgage borrowers have a fixed rate mortgage. Whereas you go back to like 06, it was about 35, 40% of all people had an ARM. And they had really bad ARMs back in the subprime days of where their rate started out at 7. After 2 years, it usually went to 12. Had a 5% cap on those loans. And almost always they were going to rise. And so you can just imagine, for most homeowners, your interest rate goes up 5%. Oh, shit. And that happened to, well over 100,000 people. And that was why we had, prices drop. We had people who had to sell because they couldn't afford their home anymore. because the interest rate on their adjustable rate mortgage had increased so much. So they had to sell, and then everyone started going underwater because supply went up. By '06, we had over 6 months of inventory of homes for sale, and builders had 30 months of inventory of homes for sale. They had so overbuilt during the aughts. They totally ignored the demographic data that was coming in. I mean, I've always jokingly said that the builders were the first group of people smoking weed in Colorado, okay? Because they totally ignored the demographics that showed the number of people moving into Denver and Colorado was really small. They just kept building, and they overbuilt.
What year was that?
By '06, they had inventory levels of 30 months of homes for sale. And back then, I remember builders were giving you as realtors vacations and cars. You know, if you sold a home, especially if you sold 2 or 3 of them, you get a nice Lexus lease for 2 or 3 years, or they send you to Hawaii. I know the last couple of years they've been giving you the middle finger salute instead. You know, it's interesting as a lender to see this really strange symbiotic relationship between you as realtors and home builders. You know, they're going to start coming back though. You know, already are. Okay.
Did you say 97% of the mortgages are fixed rate?
About 95, 96% right now of mortgages across the country are fixed rate. I mean, for me, God, when was the last? I think I've done one ARM. It was a jumbo loan, probably in the last 7, 8 years. It just doesn't make sense.
I just saw my first, you can take over their loan.
Oh yeah, assumptions. Yeah, it's something I'm going to start doing some research because you can assume FHA and VA loans, and so that's going to be an interesting topic for another class I'm going to be teaching in July. That people can assume, and some of you have been in this room, have been in real estate for a long time. Assumptions were really popular, I know, back in the late '70s and '80s, and so it was a totally different time. Jay,
I got a question for you. Will there ever be uniformity in the country as to what states use deeds of trust and which states use mortgages?
I don't know that. I don't think so. I don't know that anyone cares. You know?
Well, they do if we run into foreclosure problems.
Yeah, I mean, Colorado is one of the easier states for foreclosures and quicker states because it's not judicial and stuff, which I sort of, honestly prefer, because sometimes in the judicial states, the foreclosure process can easily take over a year, and people don't make their payments. Sometimes they trash the home, and so for the lender, that's not a good thing. So if Denver home prices have appreciated during 4 out of the last 5 recessions, should you wait to buy a home hoping that prices drop during the next recession? This is a question for your buyers. Okay? Second, 6 out of 7 times Denver home prices have increased when mortgage rates rose over 1%. So should you wait to buy until mortgage rates drop? So if buyers are waiting for mortgage rates to drop or waiting for the next recession, okay, just know this, home prices are almost for sure going to keep increasing. I'm hoping the appreciation rate really slows down. And to me, of how to sell to buyers right now, to buy a home when rates are like 6% or so. First off, I don't think we're ever going to see rates in the 2s again. We probably won't ever see them again under about 3.75, maybe even under 4. So the past is past. Get over it. You missed out. Sorry. But that is not coming back. You just have to block that out and go, okay, today is today. You can't change the past. Only thing you can change is your present and the future. So that's one of the things we got to talk with people about when it comes to this. And one of the things I'm telling my buyers right now, buy today when prices are lower, because know this, almost always people can refinance their mortgage and lower their rate and payment, but they can never, ever refinance the price of the home. You can't go back to the seller 3 years later and go, hey, I want a low, can you give me the price dropped on home? Can you give me some money back? You can't do that. The only way to get the home at a lower price is to buy it today. Because if you wait 2-3 years, the price may be even if it's just 5% higher. On a $600,000 home, that's $30K of wealth you missed out on, okay? And I would just like to see us get back to, 6.5% appreciation rate. But you go, okay, on a $500,000 home, 6.5% is about $33,000 of appreciation or wealth building. They'll be paying almost $6,000 the first year in principal. So basically, they're increasing their wealth in that scenario by about $38,000 a year. How much wealth did you create last year as a renter, Mr. First-Time Home Buyer? Probably zero, unless they've been, saving money and stuff. Because real estate has been the best, appreciating asset, especially when you consider you can buy it with a loan, forever. I mean, real estate housing has always been known as really the best investment a household, a family can make, and it's been that way for over 100 years. And so don't miss out, buy today at today's prices, and then whenever the next recession comes, you should be able to refinance to a lower rate and a lower payment. And they just have to realize that's what they need to do. So I love this quote. This, I think, came from a class that I did last week with Barry Abib. Home values increasing is only a problem when you're a renter and trying to buy a home. Once you own a home, home values increasing is a gift. So everyone, complains about, especially home buyers, especially first-time home buyers, that, the prices have been rising so much. Yeah, it's a problem for you now. Don't you wish you'd bought a home a year ago? And maybe they, a year ago they said, oh my God, the market's going to crash. Well, they missed out on maybe $70,000 of wealth creation.
Well, and the flip side of that, Lonnie, is back when we did have the housing crisis, is I would take buyers out and they'd be so afraid because they were like, oh, prices could go down lower, they could go down lower. Mm-hmm. And so there's fear in any market.
There is, and I think what we got to remember and remind our clients, especially our buyers, but even our homeowners, real estate's a long-term investment, okay? We've seen incredible appreciation the last 2 years. Hopefully those days are past, okay? But it's a great long-term investment. The average tenure on a home is around 10 years. And so you're going to build your wealth. I mean, I remember this back in fall of 13. 13 was the year the market really, we started seeing bidding wars again. Because I remember our house came on the market Labor Day week. I think we were one of 3 offers. It was listed at $437, and I had to go up to $446. I was like, oh my God, I got to pay $9,000 over list. Shit. And I was just like, God. And I thought, do I really want to do this? Then I remembered how much my wife and my kids especially loved the house and the neighborhood. And I go, God, if I don't sign this, contract, I'm going to be in the doghouse. Okay? But I also remember telling myself, okay, we're probably going to be in this house about 10 years because our daughter was 8 then at that time. We're going to be here for 10 years. Lonnie, is it really going to matter whether you paid $437 or $446 for the house? No. It's worth, according to HomeBot, somewhere between $825 and $900 now. It doesn't really matter in the long run. If you had to pay, $10,000, $20,000 over list and stuff. $100,000, is a different story potentially, but also don't get me started on that. I was really frustrated the first few months of the year. I would look up, my clients are writing an offer on a home that's listed at $599, and I can go pull, data, and I see Zillow, Redfin, and stuff are saying the home was worth $675, and I go, it really bothered me when you or your sellers would list a home so much below market value, because it really frustrated buyers. Now, that time is changing where when you did that, yeah, okay, you might have gotten 10, 15, 20 or more offers on the home and stuff, but it was really hard on buyers. And now when I go, like say for each of you is listing your home, you may want to do a version, keep doing a version of that. Let's say the home's worth, say, 700, okay? Maybe you list it for 675 or something now and see what happens. Don't list it at what you think its true value is, and let's just see what happens and create maybe a little more, buyer demand with a little price. The other thing you can really do that can help is having your sellers offer to the buyers a 2-1 temporary interest rate buy down, where for the first year their mortgage rate's reduced by 2%. The second year it's reduced by 1%. So let's just say the rate, long-term rate's 6. The first year it's 4%. The second year it's 5. And it costs 2.25% of their mortgage amount, not the sales price, 2.25% of the mortgage amount. So if the buyer's mortgage is $500,000, that would be what, about $12,000 or so as, quote, a seller concession. But I think that can be much more powerful to a buyer than reducing the price. And so, because what people are really missing and frustrated with as well is the big increase in mortgage rates. Yeah. But I mean, like for right now, I don't think we're going to have any problems with appraisals for the next 2 or 3 months, because appraisers always have to look backwards.
Maybe 45 days after that, I see a problem.
Yeah, there may be. Yeah. Okay. So.
I have a question about that. We've had this perfect storm for move-up buyers for like a decade.
Yeah.
With all this equity, all this appreciation, and low rates. Mm-hmm. So they could just say, all right, now's the time to take this equity and get our bigger, better house.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's flipped with these higher rates, and this lock-in effect is kind of taken over.
Yep.
Is that a big enough chunk of the market to change things or affect things? Where does that affect our market?
I think it could, because when you start going, I know I think it was it Redfin, did a survey just a month or two ago, and here in Colorado, 61% of homeowners with a mortgage have a rate under 4%, the second highest percentage in the country after Utah. So we have a lot of people with rates in the 3s and even the 2s. I mean, our home in Littleton and our home in Estes Park are both at like 2.75. And some of you may have a rate in the 2s as well. And so it's going to be harder for those people who just want to move up just because it's probably going to hold them back. The lock-in effect, I started talking about that in my, bubble class, I think in 17 or 18, that this might happen, that there may be a lock-in effect. And I won't be surprised if later this summer, August, September, we're going to see new listings really drop, because people are going to go, okay, I got a rate of 3%. Currently rates are, say, 6. What the heck am I doing? Even if they're afraid. Well, I still need a house or still need a place to live. So why move? It's going to take more. It's going to take true lifestyle changes to get people to move. Job relocation. Let's just say they live in Parker right now in their new job, and they got to go to the office every day is in Boulder. Okay, they're not going to make that commute for very long. Okay, or maybe they get married, they get divorced. Having kids. It's going to be those lifestyle changes that will truly push people into buying a new home. I believe it's just not going to be people just looking to buy up. I think that part will go down.
A segment or a price point of the market, or is that across the whole?
I think it's going to be across the board. The last 2 years we've sold nearly 60,000 homes. This year will probably drop to 54, 55, and I won't be surprised especially if rates were to stay in the 5s at least, that number may drop to like 50,000 sales next year. Just because of the lock-in effect, fewer people are going to move because of that.
Lonnie, I've had a couple of first-time home buyers that can no longer qualify.
Okay.
Do you have have you heard of a percentage of people that have been just flushed out of the market because they can no longer qualify?
No, I don't know anyone's done that kind of study as
I
of
think
yet.
it's 30%.
It's hard to say. It
Yeah.
really is. There's, some people have definitely been priced out, and sometimes it's more of their own budget of what they want to pay. Have been priced out. But just this week on Monday, I had a first-time home buyer get under contract on a condo in Aurora at $225,000. She makes $50K a year. She works in a nonprofit. She's still able to buy. Yeah, she's only able to buy a one-bedroom condo, but she's a single lady. She's okay with that. Steve.
Well, one of the things I follow too is showing time, number of
Okay.
shows.
Right.
And answer his question. To me, our market has changed since like Mother's Day. What you're talking about now, April
Yeah.
stats, next month, hang on, your stats are gonna be nothing like you're talking about now.
Right.
Our number of showings since Mother's Day have dropped down probably 40% what we saw before.
Right.
So I use that number in my mind to say, that's probably pretty close to the number of your buyers who are not in the market anymore for whatever reason. For whatever reason, whether they don't qualify, or they're just saying, I don't care. And the
Yeah.
other thing with all the price reductions, back on markets, withdrawals that we're seeing, showings that we put new listings on, you're talking about, hell, I have showings out of new listings, I haven't had a showing in a week. We're seeing a total change in that market take place. So I agree that I think our buyer pool is dropping
the buyer
by
pool.
40%.
The buyer pool is definitely shrinking. There's no doubt about it. I don't know what the percentage is. I mean, one question I really have for you, each of you that say have listed a home for sale, say in the last 30 days. What's the reason your clients are moving? Are you sensing fear or panic in your sellers? Like, oh my God, I got to sell for whatever reason. And you're shaking your head.
Yes, especially people at that lower price point are getting nervous.
Okay.
If I need to move because of work, what am I doing? I have to sell. I have to take my equity and leave this town.
Okay.
I'm seeing
Okay.
that.
Okay. Yeah, so where are they moving? I mean,
Anywhere they can get a better paying job with lower
okay.
mortgage costs.
Yeah.
They don't care.
Or
Yeah.
taking their Colorado job and income and working
Yeah,
remotely.
and working and relocating maybe somewhere else.
Uh-huh.
I've had people, relocate from Denver, especially to the Midwest. Some of them have come back in a couple of years. I remember like one couple, they moved back to Minnesota. They had grown up there, but they'd been out here in Denver for quite a while. And they moved back, and I remember their realtor, she's not here today. We were remarking it was at a time when I think it was like 40 below zero, in Minneapolis. So she had put, I think it was like 60 degrees here that day. 100-degree temperature difference. Don't you miss Denver? And they came back a couple years later. And I still have a lot of people always moving here from the Midwest, of where you go, the upper Midwest, you got the cold in the winter, you got the heat and humidity, and, in some of those states, the mosquito's the state bird, So Colorado is an incredible place to live, and I could see some people looking to leave. Where else would you go that has what we have here? That's the hard thing. You're going to give up a lot to go live in Kansas.
Does anyone know the in-migration? Is that the word? No number of people moving to Colorado?
Yeah, I mean, last year, I think, it was lower, but it was still, I saw, according to the Census Bureau, they said here in Metro Denver, it was basically flat, but the state was up like 70,000. But even the state demographer said Denver's data is going to get redone, because she was like, I know that number is not correct, just by looking at the real estate market.
Who was that?
Huh?
Who was the state?
It was, well, there's several of them, I don't remember her name or anything. It's a whole office, so.
That's just a yearly thing. I mean, the prediction is still 1 million people over the next 20 years.
Right.
Yeah,
If you're
we've
a real
been,
estate investor, that's
Yeah.
always a good time to buy.
yeah, it is, and the mountains are always going to be calling people, to move here. And so many people come here like I did for grad school, or people come here for college and never leave, because it's gorgeous. Incredible weather, no mosquitoes for the most part. So what are some other things that you're hearing from your sellers right now in the last 30 days? are you sensing any fear, that kind of thing from them?
Well, yeah, I have a listing that went live on Memorial Day weekend.
Okay.
You know, right when kind of this shift happened. You know, so we're having these weekly meetings where we're having these pep talks every week.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, come on, hang in there, hang in there.
And where do they want to move to?
They have a second home that they're going to downsize into their own second home.
Okay.
So they're taking equity and they're going into their second home. So,
okay.
you know, they have, you know, the options, but they're nervous because they got to carry 2 homes while they're waiting for someone to, if this buyer comes along for their home.
Right. Yeah. But they've probably had 2 mortgages for a while if they have a second home.
Right, but the tenant's out now because they're having work done.
I see.
So
Okay.
they're paying 2 mortgages now for the first time.
Okay.
How many showings have you had?
We've had about 15.
Wow. Okay.
We've had a decent number of showings. We just
So what are the comments you're getting from buyers agents?
They're generally good, you know, and no one's really complaining about the price, but we just haven't had someone step up and.
I would say it's condition then, something.
No, they decorated their house a little differently than what somebody would put in a magazine, but.
Yeah, I mean, you probably need to get it staged. They may need to put in some new countertops, new appliances, maybe new flooring and stuff to sell.
That's a conversation you have with your sellers too.
Right.
Hey, guess what? We want you to change everything in your house that you like, pull it all out, and then live there in it.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
But do they really? But it really comes down to: do you really want to sell your home?
Well.
And maybe what it takes, or you're going to be making 2 mortgage payments maybe for 2-3 months.
These conversations shift every week, you know.
Yeah.
Every week they change a little bit.
Please.
I have buyers who are buying a new build and they need to sell their old house.
Okay.
They're not, it's not listed yet, but with interest rates going up and the new build being delayed, we're into the summer before they can list. It was supposed to be listed in April, May.
Right. Okay.
And now it's not, we're waiting.
Yes, the builders are still far behind. I know I'm hearing nationally, Lennar their CEO had I think he was on CNBC or something last week, and saying at least in 6 markets, they're really seeing cancellations rise quite a bit. Denver was not one of those markets as of yet for Lennar. And so I think we'll start to see that, I'm sure, unless, they've locked in their rate in advance. And so that's one of the struggles when you buy a new home. You may not be able to lock in your rate. I mean, we'll do a 9-month rate lock and stuff. So we have clients who are under contract to buy a new home, and we had to do that with